We sell a lot of records, and records cost a lot of money. But what good is spending a lot of money if your records don't sound good because of dust and static electricity? That's why I recommend to all our customers the new record vacuum by Ronco. It's so easy to use. Just insert any size record, 33 1/3, 45s, 78s. The new record vacuum automatically vacuums away all the microdust particles that distort sound and can damage your needle. It also eliminates static electricity buildup. The record vacuum by Ronco protects your records and gives you all the quality sound you paid for. It makes this sound like this. For the price of a couple of albums, protect your records and prevent damage to your needle. If you want the best possible sound from all your records, get the new record vacuum by Ronco. In fact, buy 2 or 3. They really do make great Christmas gifts. And they're only $14.88.
Available at Payless, MyMart,
Only
Newberry, and
$14.88.
7-Eleven, and Fred Meyer.
The Power Glove for your NES. Now you and the games are one. Everything else is child's play.
Everybody needs a Yugo sometime.
I bought my Yugo because now I can afford a brand new car.
I'm going to find a better Yugo commercial.
my old carpool.
I like the rack and pinion steering and the front wheel drive.
We wanted a dependable second car.
And this Yugo's just what we need.
The 87 Yugo GV is still only $39.90. Call 1-800-USA-YUGO for the dealer nearest you.
Everybody needs a Yugo sometime.
Great American Furniture's Christmas sale starts the day after Thanksgiving, and we have a huge selection of furniture that will turn your house into a home. Recliners, 10 to 30% off. Dining room sets, 10 to 40% off. Lane cedar chests save up to 50%.
Charlie's Place. You can use an electric sign. Charlie, set up the Stag beer. Oh, business is off to nothing. No jukebox, no service. Charlie, let's make it lively here with some Stag. Shh, shh. Leaky radiators. Oh, they'll ruin business every time. Put down that menu, sir, and join me in a refreshing Stag beer. Oh, there's nothing like Stag brew to refresh you through and through. Charlie, you better get out here with some more Stag, or you'll...
Shh, quiet, please.
Oh, don't whisper, gal. Speak up. Where's the Stag?
Stag may be found under wildlife.
Oh, yay. Oh, that is a corker. Go ahead, sir. Drink up. And the next time you look for complete refreshment, look for Stag beer. Yeah.
Remember, the voice for Mr. Magoo was done by
the commercial
one and
again.
only
Time to get
Jim
myself
Backus.
a Stag beer.
Mr. Howell
to enjoy
on
it with me.
Gilligan's Island.
Why, Bottomley, I didn't hear you come in. Take off your hat. Now get another Stag. Oh, by George, Stag always brings them best together.
Back in the couch, go grab Grandma.
Roddy Piper.
Look for something you ain't never seen before. You're looking for a home.
You're looking for the lightness buster.
You're looking for
You're looking for me. You're looking for you. We're crazy now.
I'm coming to your living room, so I don't get into that. I'm Roddy Piper.
Exciting
Every Sunday, 11:30.
Nights at 11:30.
Christmas gift values up to $15, now only $4.96 at Kmart. The amazing cookie machine, delicious decorative fun. Make beautiful rugs with the amazing speed tufting kit. Create exciting fancy foods with the potato chip machine. The bottle and jar cutter recycles throwaway bottles and jars into beautiful glassware. The rhinestone and stud setter stylizes jeans, shirts, anything. Homemade ice cream is easy with the automatic ice cream machine. Get these great Christmas gift values for just $4.96 only at Kmart.
G.I. Joe forces hit back while they move their secretly gone satellite to safety. But
blasting down from Devil's Mountain. Cobra's gonna hijack it. Here come the reinforcements. You control the action with G.I. Joe High Adventure Trucking. Now, Cobra's desperate. They'll ram, squeeze to safety. Headquarters are secure now, so move around back. G.I. Joe High Adventure Trucking. By Tyco, of course.
What up, Cyberspace Cadet, Cyber Fanbots galore? That's right, it's Saturday night. You know what that means? It's time for accelerated deconstruction, or as we call it here, XD. That's right, XD, or the also known as the emoji. I guess the what is it called? The letter emoji, meaning
big smiley emoji,
big happy face, laughing face, or something. I don't know. But yeah, we want to say hey to Miles Beats in there. I saw you creeping in there, sir. Greetings, the Shadow Cat. What's up, Johnny Elcat, James Colley. James and I were having a nice conversation before everybody got here. Accelerate, of course, is in the studio. Mr. Dax, greeting. Mason Mulpus, dude. What's up? It's good seeing everybody. Have I missed anyone? Spittle Buggies, of course. If you want to go hang out on Twitch, you go for it, sister. Because I really need like 3 people every show, but you know it's not happening, so whatever. Object of Hate, greetings. All right, and on that note, let's introduce A is for Atima.
Hey, everybody.
What's up?
How y'all doing?
Accelerate.
Hey, what's up, fam? Thanks for joining in for yet another episode of the show that's named after me. XD stands for Big Dick.
All right.
Been one hell of a week, man. One hell of a week.
Crazy.
We got fucking fight in the middle of the East. I already told you guys last night I'm officially a cancer survivor.
Yeah, man, you want to talk about that a little bit more because we really didn't get into it, and it's like, and it hit me after the show. I'm like, holy fuck, you know?
We talked about it a little bit before. So what happened is I went into the doctor a month ago, and I'd had this like little spot growing on the inside of my thigh, and like it started out small. I thought it was kind of like a blood boil because it was just like really kind of just like this dark pink thing. I actually like tried to pop it at once and it did bleed out, but then it just grew like a little bit bigger. So it was about pea-sized by the time I told my doctor about it. And he's like, all right, we're going to slice it off and send it in for a biopsy. Like, you know, he said it didn't really look like anything. But the biopsy came back and it was actually a type of skin cancer. So I was actually shocked at first because nobody likes it when you're sitting there. Like I was at the doctor's office. I was just there to get a prescription refill. I wasn't there for anything else. And I'd kind of forgotten about that entire thing because it already been cut off and healed. And he's like, dude, that thing on your leg, I just got the results back and it was cancer. And I was like, what? Wait, what? What does that mean? Then he sat me down and he's like, well, there's 3 types of skin cancer. And this was like one of them's malignant and really dangerous, and this one is like probably the least dangerous and easiest to treat. So but what he did have to do is he had to freeze the area to make sure that if there were any of the cancer cells still there, that they all died. So I've got an awesome blister boiling on the inside of my leg now, and I'm not allowed to do anything to treat it. You're not supposed to help it. You just gotta let the fucking skin die. Keep it clean. That's all he said.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah.
Well, like no Neosporin or nothing to alleviate the pain of the fact that I have a bunch of skin that was essentially burned, right? Because when you freeze something with liquid nitrogen, it does a very similar thing to like a 3rd-degree burn, right?
Yeah. I think it's technically a freezing burn.
Hey.
We got a $6.99 Canadian from Blind Press saying, stopping by to leave a like and wish you a good stream, family. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, BP.
Oh, yeah.
And,
see, even though you have 2 strikes, Susan still has your super chat or button up. So
yeah,
that's cool.
It's just 1 strike, but yeah.
Oh, I thought you were on number 2. My bad.
Well, I mean, what it happens is that they time out, right? They go the whole 90 days, and then boom, within the next day, or this time it was like a couple weeks, they hit me again. So I've always got 1 strike. I've had 1 strike for over a year now, or right out of a year, maybe.
James Crowley's like, keep it clean. That's the same advice I used for my pee-pee.
No shit. I thought about
good advice. It's good advice.
What is that? What is that dude? We was Kang's guy. Wash your ass. That's what I thought about. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Tariq Nasheed?
Yeah, it's Tariq Nasheed. That's it. I don't speak Egyptian. Let's see, Spittle Buggies. Thank you for hopping over to Twitch. I did want to say hey. Somebody else at Twitch. I found the Shadow Cat 70. I see you over there. Awesome.
Mason Mulpus, fuck you, right?
Uh-oh,
I'm just saying it the way that my mom used to say it, because honestly, that's the most experience I ever had with Neosporin. Did I say it right that time?
Neosporin?
Neosporin. Or Neo.
It's Neosporin.
It's Neosporin.
It's Neosporin.
I think I said something like Neosporin or whatever. But that's how my mom. Yeah, that's how my mom always
totally
said
went
it,
past
right?
my head,
and
right?
she would always tell me to put it on things like, I don't know, festering blisters and wounds.
Mm-hmm. You know, it comes from the dirt. Actually, the active ingredient came from soil. I think it was from Sweden. But,
yeah, I had no clue. I just know you're supposed to put it on festering wounds.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's like it's always been a thing to put dirt on wounds. So they,
Well, it makes sense.
It does, doesn't it? It all comes full circle. Full circle.
We're all 3 years old.
But anyway, that's only tangentially related to what we are talking about today. I think, did you cue that video up about medical lysenkoism?
Oh, I've got the it's a tweet. It's not a video.
There's no video here, Excel.
What did I do?
I've got the video with what's her name in it.
You broke it.
Oh no. All right, hold on. I'll go look for that, but we also like, before we get into that, I do want to talk about, so Jin Saki this week was actually asked about I think it was Tim Scott's proposal about critical race theory and whatnot, and she just gave the most she's either stupid or lying, and we know with these people, they're more often than not lying. And she talks about systemic racism in a way that, I don't know, just like to my bones makes me cringe. And I was like, this is why Biden was not the room, right?
Yeah.
This is why no matter how much you hate Trump, what's going to happen from a permissive government led by the Democrats is going to be way worse.
You wanna play it real quick?
Yeah,
yes, please, because I haven't heard it.
Y'all hit the all right. Yeah, click the live and join me, so we all know what's going on. All right, is everybody ready?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My least favorite redhead on the planet, on this godforsaken planet.
I have one more I dislike more, but goddamn, they look similar.
Yeah, I actually will say in this video, she looks a little bit, I don't know, I guess less plain than she usually does.
Yeah, whatever. You know, I'm sorry. Yeah, she's got a hot bod, everybody says, and everything, but I just,
like,
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I just
Glad she's quitting.
I can't. Yeah, me too. So, all right, here we go.
He is proposing a new tax targeting the largest private endowments he says it would raise $2 billion a year. I wonder, does the president believe that our largest, our wealthiest schools are indoctrinating our youth with un-American ideas? And would he support such a tax? Is it a good idea?
Now you've intrigued me. What are the un-American ideas that are indoctrinating our youth?
The legislation doesn't lay out the precise...
Oh, he's not specific about the indoctrination by leaders from universities?
Well, he's been critical of, for example, the 1619 Project. He's been critical, spoken about critical race theory. He's claimed that there's a liberal bias on campus that targets conservatives, I think would be a way to put it.
What's he going to do with the money?
He wants to use it for programs for, I'm having a hard time coming up with the word, when you have job training, those sorts of things.
Without much detail
or
of where he
occupational
thinks our
rehabilitation.
youth are being indoctrinated, it sounds very mysterious and dangerous. Although I don't think we would think we believe that educating the youth and leaders of the future leaders of the country on systemic racism is indoctrination. That's actually responsible.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like just the way she approached the entire thing was straight out of the critical theorist playbook, right? From the get-go. Like, it doesn't like being called out, so it plays dumb at first. But then she said the last thing, teaching our youth about systemic racism. And if any of you guys are a Patreon subscriber to New Discourses, they actually recently put out an Only Subs video, which we are no longer going through on the stream because I think that one got removed, right? I think it was the only way you could piss him off is if you put the stuff behind a paywall on your stream. But he talked about the simple lie of systemic racism. Because what they're teaching people is not that the system like is explicitly racist. What they're doing is they're saying, well, there's all these disparities between these different groups of people that we've I guess ascribed to them. Right? Like white people created black as a category. If it wasn't for white people, black wouldn't even be a category. So all these disparities, it's not because of any, like, you know, you can look and see that there might be like some sort of cultural issue or like a socioeconomic issue that correlates with skin color. Whenever you look at these giant aggregates, it couldn't possibly be another explanation other than the system itself is racism. So anytime you see a disparity, that is a reflection of the system itself and is racist, which is intellectual sophistry. But it's a really simple lie, because if you come out and say, like, tell your normie friends that systemic racism isn't real, and they're going to be like, what do you mean? Then ask your, you know, normie friends what systemic racism is. They're probably going to give you some simple answer where they're just like, well, look at how black people are shot disproportionately by police than white people. And they're going to say that in a vacuum, like it's actually explaining anything. When you actually look at the data and rewind it doesn't.
People don't challenge it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's superficially true, right? But it's if you correlate it with all the data we have on like violent crime statistics and things like that, and likelihood to have committed a crime, be in a police encounter, or simply living in an area where there is a lot of crime, even if you're completely innocent, you're going to have more interactions with police just because that area has more crime. That's it. That's all there is to it. So the question is so the next question is why is there so much crime? But they don't ask those questions. So whenever you hear that coming out of the White House, like, I think probably not even 4 years ago, right, when somebody said systemic racism, I would have given some credence to it. But it's devolved into the point, the only definition they're using, and the definition that obviously Saki's referring to, because they're talking about teaching the 1619 Project, is this critical definition that anytime you see disparity, that is indicative of systemic racism, and there's no other possible explanation.
This is wholly fucking terrifying what the AMA is doing.
Oh, yeah. This leads in pretty well to the video. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, I'll let you read this one out.
What's
Like, you don't have to read the 86-page paper. The headline tells the whole story.
I was going to say, all I see is the thing that Irate has on the screen, so I'm assuming that's what we're talking about. But what's worse than socialized medicine? CRT medicine. The American Medical Association recently released an 86-page strategic plan and a 3-year roadmap to dismantle structural and institutional racism through 5 equity-centered approaches. Committee of Public Health. My head just exploded. My head just exploded a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the AMA strategic plan to embed racial justice and advance health equity, vision for equity and justice in medicine.
Holy shit, y'all.
Well, all right. So, the best case scenario is if this shit happens, y'all. All right, all of us who aren't getting the jab and are going to be punished for it will be sent to real doctors.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a silver lining to this insanity. Jesus.
Well, so it really screws the entire thing up when you interject theory into any actual scientific discipline.
Yeah.
Because what you force that, so just imagine that you're actually trying to do science, but you are told that you have to adhere to certain axioms, regardless of whether or not that axiom is true.
Right.
So you're starting from a false assumption, and you're going to get conclusions to fit that false assumption, right? Even doing science after the fact. But because you have started with this assumption, right, you're going to create adverse outcomes that should never have came to existence. This is the same thing I say about this entire idea of trans medicine, right? What they've done with it, especially with children, is they're starting from these assumptions that come from theory, not science. And then they're fitting the rest of the science around the theory.
Right.
Okay, but that's not science. That's philosophy, and philosophy wouldn't even call it philosophy. They'd call it bullshit. So
they would call it lazy philosophy.
It's not. That's why they'd call it bullshit, because
even as a philosophy, it's very lazy in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this whole Lysenkoism thing is really, it's why I shared it, and I think it plays into it a lot, which is why I think it's worth a listen. We're not going to watch the entire hour and a half, but probably the first 30 minutes, I think he explains pretty well what Lysenkoism is and how we're kind of in this dawn of medical Lysenkoism, because it's one of those things where it kicks out any scientific discovery from science that disagrees with their presupposition about how the world should work. And that's what theory is doing when it interjects itself into medicine. Exactly. It kicks out any science that shows that, hey, your predisposition about how the world works isn't true. It says, no, we can't operate under that. So we throw that out. And we force everything to conform to how the world, as they see it, should work. So you're right that it's not science, right? Because science cannot have that restriction. But imagine having to operate under that guise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out.
I have a really bad example, and I just want to let you guys know my interest in 9/11 conspiracy theories has completely dissipated. But I used to pay attention to them, and I remember one of the big things was Building 7. Do you guys remember that whole story?
Yeah.
How do you explain that Building 7 looked like a man-made implosion?
Mm-hmm.
Well, scientists, because they had to rule out that as a possibility, created models that worked, ruling that out as a possibility.
Correct.
Even though they would say, well, if I didn't have to rule that out because they said that wasn't possible, we would have came to the conclusion that it was some sort of man-made implosion, right? So that was one of the sticking points. And I'm not trying to talk about like 9/11 conspiracy theories, but whenever you're giving this, like you're telling these people, so that hypothesis can't work because we're saying that it didn't happen. Once you lay down that foundation, then they have to come up with something else, and they can find something that works, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that they're going to try to... Systemic racism in medicine, So you're going to start medically experimenting on white people without their permission, because that's already been done. Camp Lejeune, they're still doing it. What sort of racial and systemic inequity is there in the medical field?
Yeah.
Well, so
what's the 5 points here?
Oh, hold on, I already explained this. I already explained this to you, Atima. Like, I have the answer to your question. From their perspective, anytime there's a disparity, there's racism. It turns out that all these different racial groups, because of, it can't be genetics, right? There can't be like genetic commonalities between these different racial groups that would cause different medical outcomes. That can't be possible. So obviously racism exists in the medical community because we have disparate outcomes and results between racial groups when it comes
because
to,
there's nobody there to make sure it's equitable.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
go ahead.
It's not going to be equitable because people aren't going to want to go to the doctor if people don't want to go to the doctor. That has nothing to do with racial equity. It has to do with whether they've had good or bad experiences at the doctor's office. And if you've ever been in the state system, you're going to have bad experiences with the doctor's office, and you're not going to go back if you don't have to.
Yep.
Yeah, to them, that would just be one piece of the racial puzzle. The other would be is like, well, there's no actual reason that Black people suffer from high blood pressure and heart disease at a higher rate than other groups, right?
There
Like
absolutely
it must. Well, no, they can't believe that. It has to be like anytime there's a disparity like that, it has to be racism.
It's evolutionary biology.
Well, it's also Southern cooking because everything is, it's got bacon in it or it's dipped in Crisco. You know, I mean, that's Southern cooking, dude. People, you know, or what is called soul food up north is, we just call that food down here. And it's greasy and it's good. But I mean, there is a consequence if you eat a lot of it, man. You will get fat as fuck. You will have hardening of the arteries. You will get diabetes, you know?
And to them, that's not true either because you can be healthy at any size.
Well,
yeah, but see, the whole reason that a lot of Southern folk have been eating fried foods for so long is because they actually needed the extra fat because of the type of work being done up until probably the mid-1900s.
Got you. And that makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah, I mean, why Americans are fat, like, is in general is an evolutionary biological issue, right?
Yeah.
We've actually gotten way too good at food. Back in the day, carbohydrates were only available certain times of the year. And when you could get them, you fucking ate them up and you got a lot of shit done.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And they tasted great and we loved them. Like, and that was part of survival. Like, you were supposed to eat foods that were high in carbohydrates and know that they're good for you and you should consume as much as you can because they're not always going to be around. And now we can produce carbohydrates at will any time of the year. And our body, like, you know, like I said,
they're neurochemically addictive as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. And they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be chemically addictive because we're supposed to want to eat as much as we can when we can get a hold of them.
Right.
But now they're readily available 365 days a year, and we eat too much of it.
Well, right.
Not to mention that we don't have to fucking work anymore for our food.
And our genetic lines, right? Our genetic lines had to go through what 10,000 years of ice age. So adaptation, you know, people that could hold fat better, longer, were more apt to survive because of those, right?
Yeah. I mean, like all this stuff about like evolutionary psychology, like just evolutionary biology, it really fucking puts a wrench in everything critical theory is trying to do.
Well,
which is why it's trying to infect things like medicine and the sciences in general.
Right.
Well, also, you know, we always heard about the race realists and stuff like that, and that was an abuse of important medical knowledge. You know, there are genetic differences we need to take into effect. Heart disease, skin cancer, sickle cell anemia, Down syndrome. You know, I can list a whole bunch of things that are genetically specific to different groups or I guess allele types. And
this is where I go back to, like, we're talking about groups in large aggregates. It doesn't say anything about an individual. Whether you're talking about some sort of behavioral pattern that could possibly be genetic, or you're talking about something, it doesn't change the way I see the world, right? Because, like, the smallest unit of sovereignty and how we should judge everything, how all policies should be judged, is at the individual level. But it makes people that are into this critical theory nonsense, because ultimately, like, it is just the evolution of Marxism, right? They look at everybody in groups. They see things in this oppressor versus the oppressed.
Right,
mentality.
and there has to be a binary kind of relationship for the idea to work. Yeah,
that's why, like,
it's so autistic, though.
For all of Sam Harris's faults, him sticking up for Charles Murphy and doing an interview with him, like, that was, I mean, to me, that's how it should be. Like, you don't have to agree with what Charles Murphy opinion on the data is, right? That there's probably a genetic difference that is causing these IQ disparities. That's his position, but he's not doing it out of hate. And if you read what Charles Murphy said, it's the whole reason he wrote the book, The Bell Curve, right? Showing IQ distributions going into a society that it's leaning towards requiring people to have high IQs for high paying jobs, right? Like, it was more like a warning that you're going to see this rise in disparity, because we're in an era where, like, you're going to have these skills that require a higher IQ to be good at, right? Like, whether it's programming or anything technologically driven, versus what things were like in the past, where blue collars, regardless of, you know, intelligence, like, it was more about labor, like physical labor.
Let's look at these 5 things of because the AMA thing is really where I'm stuck, and the 5 what are they calling it? The strategic approaches to advance health equity.
I can't see the words on this one. Hold on, let me see if I can get it to come up on my.
Let me get bigger.
Yeah, I'll just open it up in Twitter.
I'm blind. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing because I'm graceful.
We all are.
Yeah.
So what it starts out with embed equity in practice, process, action, innovation, and organizational performances and outcomes.
Okay, that's just gibberish.
Well, if you actually translate it, it means we're completely fine if we just make sure that everybody has heart attacks at the same rate.
Insane.
I mean, that's what equity is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Build alliances and share power via meaningful engagement. Once again, it's more gibberish. Anytime you read these things, and it's a lot of this is like they're borrowing from corporate speak. It just sounds nice. It's not a real thing. Like, you actually read that and you try to translate that into what it actually means in reality, like for action they're going to take.
Hey, go, man.
It doesn't mean anything at all. Ensure equity and innovation for marginalized and minoritized people and communities. Once again, it doesn't mean anything. right? What are you going to say? Well, like, if we innovate something, but it turns out that it's going to help one group over another, then we should throw that innovation out.
But the entire language is a huge hand job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just the way that it's like it's empty logic. You know, it gives it's an illusion of logic. I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say here.
It's baffling with bullshit.
Yeah, it's baffling with bullshit.
There you go.
That's you're spot on there.
It's gobbledygook because build alliances and share power via meaningful engagement means fucking nothing. Literally nothing.
All right. So the plan is on ama-assn.org. All right, and I've got that scrolled up right there. The link to that. So if you want to grab a copy of it, yeah, you should be able to download it.
Yeah, it's 86 fucking pages. That's just why like whenever I posted that link, I was like, let's just look at some of the slides. It says all you need to know.
I'd rather have my pecker eaten by crawdads. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this is pretty awful.
I'd rather have a buffalo take a diarrhea dump in my ear.
Listen to this. Did y'all hear this one? Let's see if we can...
difficult, you know, to end this scientific racism and
can
these
barely hear
values
that.
and beliefs that are held rather by the science community. Even as evidence starts to build on this impact on medicine and the health of people.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to lift up everything that everybody has said on the panel already. I learned so much from all of you, and I'm every time I have this conversation, I learn something new. So I really appreciate the comments so far. But to your question, Dr. Maybank, I think that's why white supremacists are scared of critical race theory, because critical race theory is the theory that helps you to ask the question that you're trained and taught not to ask, right? Like, again, racism is the air that we breathe, it's the water that we're swimming in. So when
that's not asking a question, it's asking you to assume a position.
This is an assumption that doesn't make sense. And, you know, Dr. Ananya and I can speak to this, right? As medical students, right? We're sitting in the classroom too, just like everybody else, thinking, that's funny. Black EGFR is different. That doesn't sound quite right. So again, this is why critical race theory and other theories like it, right? Again, I don't want to, conflate all critical theories at all, or say that critical race theory is more helpful than other critical theories, but it is one of the tools that we need to ask better questions and stop reflexively doing what our mentors and supervisors have taught us and told us to do, when the context in which those things, those practices, those skills, those norms and algorithms were created is a context of normalized race.
That was English, people. You know, even if you had a hard time hearing it.
Algorithms?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as scientific racism, right? It's either science or it's racism, right? So you're either doing what critical theory is actually trying to do, which is interject its assumptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love how she said it's teaching people to ask the question, and then she actually said the quiet part out loud, where you just assume racism is the normal state of things, which is not a question. That's a presupposition.
Mm-hmm.
So what she's advocating for is actually the same thing that what scientific racism, the pejorative, would be, right? Or what you would think if you think of scientific racism is it's not really science, it's racism, right? Where you start as that as the presupposition, and then you make the science fit around the racism.
Right.
Right. Real science isn't going to be racist. It can't be, right? It is making observations that can be tested, reviewed, and agreed upon by everybody, that like this is what's actually happening. And I'm not saying it's some sort of absolute truth, but it's provisional truths. Like any scientific research if it comes out and says, oh, yeah, it looks like people from France have a slightly higher predisposition towards aggressiveness than people from England, genetically, right? And well, actually, you say, and we think this has to do with genetics, right? That might be the conclusion they draw, but maybe they can't say that, right? You get where I'm trying to go, right?
Right.
Maybe there's other explanations and it requires further research. That's what science would say.
You mean like how the French are more likely to hit you, but less likely to win when they hit you?
Exactly.
Okay.
I forgot to thank Pancalo the Driving Ape for the Canadian 99 cents was the equivalent of 82 cents US, which Susan will get 30% of that. Upside down smiley face. Thanks, man.
Well, so Madness is talking about how white supremacists they support and love critical race theory.
Yeah,
it's you're not wrong. Except what they do is they use the same kind of postmodernist view of reality and they turn it upside down.
It's horseshoe theory, man. Right? The extremists love this shit.
I don't even think it's horseshoe. I think it's two sides of the same coin.
Well, that's kind of what horseshoes is now. You know, I don't know. In my opinion, that's who I am.
Yeah, well, they're crazy. This doesn't she wasn't even. That was confusingly dumb.
Spittle Buggy says on Twitch, Johnny Bonsacco is missing out because of a cult leader, and I guess she's saying he's like hanging with Copper Cab. I think Copper Cab's streaming right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Bonsacco's a big Copper Cab fan.
Oh.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Did not know. Yeah,
yes.
That makes sense.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Okay, so we're all right. Where are we going from here? All right. I've got the other thing queued up. It's like I said, go to people. I'll put a link in. Let's see. Where is it? AMA-ASSN.org, I guess, association.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm going to try to drop the link real quick because I got it. Have fun letting your heads explode, boys and girls.
All right.
Come on, enter button. This works. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, guys. It's interesting.
Oh, Becca let Bonsacco know that that Copper Cab has been modded on the channel now.
I saw that.
I think he got a little butthurt last night that he wasn't.
Wait, did Copper Cab?
Copper Cab? No. Copper Cab was in the chat for the Cream stream last night.
I missed that. I must have left right before.
Well, I tell you, man, last night's Cream stream went heavy duty into the paint with the Coof shit. So I think we came to some very solid conclusions.
We just rehashed what everybody was talking about this time last year.
But now now the facts are starting to be concrete.
And you can't get yeeted off of Twitter for saying it anymore.
Exactly, because it's no longer conjecture. There's actual evidence backing it up.
The CDC is coming out and telling people they don't have to wear masks anymore. Which, by the way, man, which went out again today and just walked around without a mask. I want to go places again. Wearing a mask is bullshit. I'm glad my county finally got rid of the nonsense.
Well, it's really funny because our state has an indefinite mask mandate, but the CDC has said if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. But nobody's allowed to ask anybody else if they've actually gotten vaccinated because of the Fourth Amendment and HIPAA. So everybody's just taking their masks off.
I mean, and that's something that needs to be like reiterated over and over again.
It needs to happen.
HIPAA is a thing that you can use to deny people like knowledge of whether you're vaccinated or not from the coup. Okay.
Yeah. Technically, if you didn't want to wear a mask, you could have not worn a mask this entire time, even the mask mandates. Now, granted, in practice, like employees at places, they're not going to follow this, but you can say I have an exemption, and if they ask you what's your exemption, you can say you can't ask me that. It's a HIPAA violation.
Yeah.
So you could have said that the entire time. Unfortunately, in reality, it just didn't work that way.
No, but now they're all accepting it.
Actually,
out here at least.
I actually was on a thread where I posted. I've actually like kind of on Twitter dropped the NPC mask thing. You know, the mask mandate's over. I think I can go back to having a regular account. But I said masks were always anti-science. We've known this for decades. They have zero efficacy against airborne viruses that are smaller than 2.5 microns, and coronavirus is a 0.06 micron virus. So,
right, but remember,
it's really tiny.
We as this is a channel, we recommend that you follow all CDC guidelines, NIH.
Well, and the CDC says if you don't need to wear a mask if you're vaccinated. So.
Right, and WHO
CDC,
or whatever.
And the CDC has also said that your medical information is protected information.
Follow the
take
science.
that for what it is.
Follow the science.
Right. So this guy comes in and says, like, well, the virus is, he says dissolved in saliva. I don't think he meant the word dissolved. I think he meant the word contained in saliva droplets.
Right.
And they're big enough to be stopped by the fabric of a mask. So that's not true.
That's right.
Because it's an airborne virus. So it doesn't need to be. So what he's really talking about is that it's a surface contact spreader.
Well, and
so
what
that's the only way it's going to live.
What we found out,
it's an actual airborne virus, so it doesn't have to be like
and sunshine kills it. And sunshine kills it, according to the Chinese paper.
Yeah.
According to all
ultraviolet
of the science,
I know,
ultraviolet
man.
light kills it like a motherfucker. So tell me why you're making everybody standing outside in the goddamn sunshine wear a motherfucking mask, because it seems to me you don't want this virus to die.
Well, yeah, like it was really nonsense. And what happened was here's my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory on this. So, Susan, this is me putting on a tinfoil hat and not trying to spread disinformation. Be skeptical, because this is just me in my head making shit up, right? But so the scientific articles that came up saying that we should wear masks to help stop the spread of coronavirus, they all happened after coronavirus was already a thing, right? And that's what it was all based on, and it was all theoretical. But now we have empirical data, and it doesn't matter what the mask compliance was in any given area. The places that had no mask compliance didn't fare any better or worse than places that had high mask compliance, right? So that should be good enough. And my thought has been, I think I've said this to you guys several times, but I have a feeling that years from now, they're going to come out and admit that it wasn't an experiment in virology. It was an experiment in psychology. That they thought that if they told people that wearing a mask would help them control the spread of the virus, that it would empower them and make them believe that they have some sort of control over the conditions that they have. Yeah. Take the jab or wear the mask, like Joe Biden just tweeted out as a threat.
Yeah, exactly. I was muted while I said that out to them, but I think it's a valid thing that, from a behavioral standpoint, using the mask removal as a reward mechanism, right?
Funny enough, I think, because if you look at what Fauci was doing whenever he was being questioned by people like Rand Paul talking about why people should still wear a mask, Rand Paul was just saying, like, he was harping in, it's like, if the vaccines work, why do vaccinated people need to wear masks?
Right.
and he could never get a straight answer.
Right.
So I actually do think the CDC's new guidance is kind of based on that. Like, I think they just kind of realized, all right, well,
no,
we want more
Thursday
people to get the vaccine. The masks were kind of bullshit anyway.
Listen,
so let's just tell people that if you're vaccinated, the mask, you don't have to wear the mask. Even though I think they know that they never really needed to wear the mask to begin with because it had no effect.
Or what they said Wednesday was they were testifying before Congress and they were getting an assload of pushback, right? And so Wednesday they're all about, we'll just have to see, and then all of a sudden, bam! The next day they lift it.
Object of Hate, actually, I think he's referring to how I think it was a psychological experiment. He said that the scientific committee for state use of psychology in the UK has already done exactly what I said.
Mm-hmm.
So I would actually be interested in hearing from you more details on that.
Indeed. Me too.
Should we, Object, if you have time, you just want to go in and talk to me about this? Sorry, I find it more interesting than the video we're about to watch.
All right, you want him to hop in? We can hop in.
Yeah. I want Object to tell me about this scientific committee for the state use of psychology.
How about an Object
around mask usage? Like, I really want to know.
Go in the green room and I'll yank you in.
Because my prediction is that they're going to admit it later, but it's almost like he's telling me they've already admitted it.
I'll turn the music up just a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go straight dead air there.
The wonderful sound of Philip Daniel. I really love this music, and he put out I think 2 new pieces yesterday, so I have not caught up with those yet. So CDC LARPing as the WHO. That's right. You won't get fooled again. You can get it the hood.
Yeah. Like, I think it's also amazing how Object is messaging me.
He said he's naked, and he's in the middle of something. Yeah, he's got some Crisco. But as soon as he's finished with his boy toy, he'll be right with us.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and start with the video, because I don't plan on listening to this entire thing. I just want people to understand what Lysenkoism is and how it's very similar to what we're seeing in medicine.
Well, Lysenko sounds like a Russian name.
It is.
So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like the Ludovico technique from, oh shit, Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear that?
Yes.
It's a little loud, actually.
I don't know. When James starts talking, it may not be.
We'll see.
Hey, everybody. You're listening to the New Discourses podcast. This is James Lindsay, your host and the founder of New Discourses, and we're going to talk about something scary. I want to talk to you about Lysenkoism. Lysenkoism is a word you may or may not have heard. Lysenko was a Russian, I hesitate to call him scientist, pseudoscientist in the Soviet regime. And he had some bad ideas. We're not going to talk all that much about Lysenko. I want to talk to you about the idea of medical Lysenkoism in our own society. So I'm just going to briefly introduce Lysenko. But he was kind of the chief biologist or horticulturalist. Not really horticulturalist. He was the agriculturalist for the Soviet Union under Stalin, and which was famous for its famines.
So he's the one directly in charge of the famines
and so on. And he had some very different ideas about biology. In very brief, he rejected Darwin's theories. He rejected almost all of Western genetics, and he had his own ideas that he based on other thinkers, like Lamarck, and in place of Gregor Mendel's theories of genetics, which he thought were reactionary and idealist. He mixed those. He mixed Lamarckian ideas, which is that environmental circumstances influence your situation, your genetic situation more. So the example maybe would be given that Lamarck would have kind of followed the idea that the giraffes are reaching up constantly to pick leaves off of trees, for example, and that constant activity stretches their neck longer and longer and longer. And as a result of stretching their necks longer and longer and longer, they pass that trait on to their offspring, who then repeat the pattern. And this is not how genetics works. He also combined those ideas with a Russian, Ivan Maturin, who profoundly influenced his thought, Lysenko's thought. And Lysenko ended up in charge of the agricultural program. Horrific. It's like I'm stumbling around on the words here because it's just like so bad.
Okay.
So I just want people to take this in and absorb what James just said and how it's eerily similar to what we've been talking about with how critical theory is interjecting itself with medicine right now. Like, I think already people that are kind of hip to what's going on with critical theory and medicine can listen to this and be like, I see where this is going. Anyway, carry on.
That was so weird.
Almost hard to speak about the horrific failures of agriculture that were present first in the Soviet circumstance under Stalin, and then for whatever set of reasons, despite these horrific failures, Mao took them up and led to a gigantic famine. So anywhere untold tens of millions of people starved to death as a result of this guy's bad ideas. Not just his bad ideas, though. His bad ideas being able to be forced into play. So rejecting Mendel and rejecting Darwin and rejecting, the established ideas that were coming out about how genetics works and how crops grow and how biological systems function, led to disastrous results once that was put into force because it agreed with a particular ideology. Lysenko, for example, didn't even believe that genes and DNA existed. He only ever mentioned them to say that they don't exist. It's some really bad ideas. And as a result of some of his ideas, he did things like forcing farmers to plant seeds very close together. Why? Because he believed that being communist, he believed that there would be inherent cooperation. In fact, he had this thing he called the law of the life of species, which stated...
This motherfucker's pointing out just a moron if he thought that shit legit.
He's a fucking kook.
Dude, I'll be honest, I was triggered. So
I know, I was sitting here just grinding my teeth. Because what do I do? What's my thing?
Theorist.
What?
I said, you want to know who else are kooks? The theorist.
Right.
The critical theorist.
Indeed. All right, I'm gonna roll this back up.
That plants from the same class never would compete with one another. So proletariat, of course, are all of the same class, and so they don't compete with one another. It's competition's an evil capitalist idea that imperialists and capitalists and the bourgeoisie use. And so he planted plants close together. He believed that poor crops would grow into better crops if you put them in the conditions where they can cooperate with one another. And what you have was massive amounts of crop failure. You had massive amounts of people starving to death. And the reason that his policies were put into play was because they agreed with communist ideology, and they disagreed and challenged so-called capitalist ideology, laws of competition, as alternatives. And so it was forced upon people who wanted to reject so-called Western and bourgeois science, who wanted to characterize those things as right-wing or imperialist or tools of the bourgeoisie or the oppressors or of the right wing. And because his ideas don't work, this is one of these things. This is what you start to find happening in situations like the Soviet Union, and like I think we are at risk of finding ourselves against with the woke, but not as much with biology through agriculture as biology through medicine. I think we're going to see medical tyranny, not because we're a very healthcare oriented society, rather than agricultural tyranny because we're not an agricultural peasant society. But when these ideas go into play, they fail. They don't work. They're incorrect theories. They're pseudoscience. They're crackpot. They're wrong. And when you bounce wrong theory, regardless of how ideologically fitting it is, if you bounce wrong theory off of reality, what comes out is disaster. Okay? And then there's only two options at that point. You either admit your mistake and abandon ship, or you double down and try to silence any evidence or suppress any evidence or suppress any criticism that reveals your failure. And humans have a lot of reasons why we take that bad road instead of the good road. Pride, you could say. Arrogance, you could say. There are softer reasons. Ideology is a very hard reason. The ideology can't possibly be wrong, so it must be the, corrupt evil agents who are undermining it somehow, and they have to be rooted out and destroyed. That's a horrible way. A less horrible fact about human psychology, though, is that when we understand ourselves, or glimpse ourselves is a better way to put it, when we glimpse ourselves in a situation where we are truly complicit in moral evil, it becomes almost impossible to recognize that in ourselves and admit it. And it's much easier to double down or into previous beliefs, or to adhere to an ideology that apologizes for this and allows us to continue believing wrongly, dangerously wrongly, rather than change our views, because changing our views requires us to admit and feel the guilt of having been involved in something horrible. And I've had some space where I've talked in the past on this podcast and my other James Lindsay only subs that I do for subscribers only. I've had some space where I've talked about these things in the past.
Okay.
In terms of how difficult it can be to get somebody to change their mind when they're involved in something bad. So if you have, for example, a woke person today, and you uncover the fact that their wokeness is causing harm, a lot of them will double down and retreat back into the ideology rather than coming out of the ideology, because it requires them to admit that they had actually taken up, in this case, something that's racist and that's bigoted in many regards, that it's causing undeniable harm.
Anybody want to stop right there and talk? Hello?
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys. Okay, so I don't know how many of you have green thumbs, but I have a green thumb, and I homesteaded for quite a while, and I intend on going back to homesteading. And I'm pretty good at growing things. I could yield almost enough produce for my family of 4 at the time, on less than half an acre. So I'm kind of okay with doing it. I even know how to do close crop growth. But this shit that he just said, it's literally the same as the hands-on prayer stuff that has no scientific backing whatsoever. It's that egregious.
What I started thinking about whenever he was going through that rant was idiocracy.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, rando. It's what plants want. And it's mostly salt.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so scary, terrifyingly dangerous. I don't.
Yeah, Spittlebuggy says she's punching in the air. This is apparently having a negative effect on her.
I said, is anybody else wanting to scream?
Yeah.
At the screen right now.
Hit one if you are just like bamboozled by the insanity.
So, like, here's the problem I have with him, is that I
like a white
follow
girl.
this I follow this shit every day, right? And nothing surprises me anymore. Like, I already kind of knew this was going on. So at first I was mad, but like, this was like before James even talked about this, I know for sure that like what back in January I was talking about how like it's amazing. I feel like our medical community is applying critical theory.
Yeah.
And then he like did this back in like on April 9th, I think. And he's just like, yeah, it's very similar to Lysenkoism.
Well, it's okay. So you understand what happens when you apply ideology to medicine, right?
People die.
It's the same thing that happens whenever you apply ideology to agriculture.
Dr. Mengele happens. No. See, Dr. Mengele happens when you apply ideology to medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the worst. I can't remember the name of the Chinese and Japanese thing where the reason they got bombed so bad in World War II was because of what they were doing to the Chinese. It was like Nanping or something like that.
The rape of Nanking, yes.
Nanking, okay.
Yeah, they beheaded every adult male in the entire city, which was like 10,000 heads were on the entry wall to the city.
And they did biological warfare experiments on Chinese prisoners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's what happens when you apply ideology to medicine.
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same thing. And like this is why James is making a great parallel to Lysenkoism, is because when you apply Lysenko, what he did is he applied his ideology to agriculture.
Right.
And what it had led to famine. And if you apply it to medicine, like you're gonna see the same thing. It's going to lead to medical malpractice.
Right. It's going to lead to experiments like, seeing how much melanin you can inject in a person. Right?
Yeah.
And if I inject melanin in my dick, will it get bigger?
It's amazing. It's turning, that
was a joke.
The eugenics of the Nazis upside down.
Yeah. It's kind of backwards, man. Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just they're doing the same thing. They're just
it's the
using
same thing.
different words to apply it.
Yeah, it's the same thing with a different goal.
Mm-hmm.
With a different ideology promoting it, right? It's
the same ideology.
Regardless, it's subverting the actual science and what medicine is supposed to do in order to fit an ideology.
Right, exactly.
Which can never be good.
Well, no, because it corrupts the science.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, we can go back and say that these people don't believe in objectivity, so they don't believe in science to begin with. So they throw the baby out with the bathwater, and this is what we get.
Oh, talking of babies, imagine what Planned Parenthood are doing now that they're doing critical race theory.
No, sure.
I mean, for one thing, they have become the second largest provider of transitioning gender therapies in the country.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Any way to destroy young people, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. Because Tima's tomboy daughter is not just a woman that has some masculine tendencies. She's actually trans.
No, even never mind the fact she will work on the car in 1 minute and then she'll turn around 5 minutes later, go take a shower and put on a pretty little sundress and listen to J-pop. It's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you realize I was saying that completely sarcastically.
Well, yeah, no, and I'm just pointing out what they're looking at. It's like I feel bad for her friends because they seem to think that they're transgender and non-binary, but they don't even seem to understand what male and female actually are.
Because they haven't been taught it. It's been removed from the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
They have no sense of self. Teenagers are supposed to be fucking rebellious, man, and these kids don't even know what to do.
Well, hold on.
To their parents for fucking everything.
Right. All right. So developmentally, kids gain their identity from their family when they're young. When they get older, they start adapting their identity from their peer group. right? And that's where you get them is in the peer group part.
You actually just explained, I'm going to guess it was intuitively, but that's really what's going on with rapid onset gender dysphoria.
Probably, yeah.
It's the adaptation of the peer group.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's you combine that with a whole bunch of permissive adults that are cheering the whole thing. So,
right, and in the 20s, you know, the search for the self becomes a spiritual thing, and that can take on many forms. Drugs is one big one, especially hallucinogens. Right, Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy shit, it's fucking Larry.
Yeah. I think this came from the Adam Sandler movie, Funny People. He was like, yeah, well, like when you're teenagers, like, fuck my parents, man, they don't know shit. And then sometimes when you're 20, you're like, fuck the president, he doesn't know shit. And then by the time you're 40, it's like, I'm hungry. What's in the fridge?
Yeah.
That's truth right there, actually.
Actually, yes, it is.
Although, I wouldn't say this is a permissive parents problem. This is a virtue signaling parents problem.
No, I didn't say permissive parents. I said permissive adults, and I meant
permissive adult.
I meant the doctors. I meant the doctors and intellectuals, teachers that are surrounding this entire thing.
But they're virtue signaling as well, because they've been put in there because of all their circles are telling them trans is better. To have a trans child around you makes you a better person.
Yep.
When
Okay, can I give y'all an example of something? Okay, and this is this came from my work. Okay, all right. At some point when I was working in the psych treatment field, right, there was this book that came out about latent memories of satanic experiences, right? All of a sudden, right, I have like 4 coworkers that go to this seminar based on this guy's book and shit, right? They come back, and all of a sudden, we've got three female patients that were ritually, raped and sacrificed by Satanists from 3 different states. And these were teenagers. It was the therapists that were projecting onto this shit because they wanted to see it, right? Like what people call multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder is extremely fucking rare. And if you're in the psych business, you might see it once in your lifetime, if you're lucky. Right, but you'll run into these people that'll say, "Oh yeah, if I had one," and it's like, I doubt it. I call bullshit on all that stuff.
Call bullshit on most of them.
Yeah, and my point is that there is this like herd-like effect when it comes to academia, whether it be that like the example I just put out there. Or what's going on here with the with the introduction of disguised Marxism. So yeah, I'm done now. I'll shut up.
No, like I agree with you, especially with academia. And another thing that I just want to make people like painfully aware of is that you have people that are like hard scientists, people that are really smart. That like Sean Carroll when he's talking about quantum mechanics. I love his lectures. I like listening to it. I'm not a quantum physicist, but he's a pretty good science communicator. But he went on the Coleman Hughes show and he started talking about systemic racism. And he was talking about it in the way his peers talk about it. So you have a lot of people that are like, even like people that are really smart in their field, promoting this idea, like these ideas, because it's just kind of assumed that the amount of rigor they do in their own work across campus has the same amount of rigor.
Sorry, people.
But I guess what I'm warning is like, we can't listen to academics that are really good at one thing, promoting critical race theory, when that's not their field.
Okay.
And they obviously don't understand it.
I I would say that you shouldn't be giving academics this much leeway anytime.
Well, and the fact that they don't
for
understand
sure.
it makes it easier to guide them in how they disseminate the information.
Well, have you seen how many teachers are acting like they're entitled to teach your kids without telling you what they're teaching your kids?
Yeah, that's horseshit.
Excuse me?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, like with the whole with everybody like trying to do remotely, and they're trying to tell parents that they have to not be in the room with their kids.
You can't watch this. There's other minors involved. You can't be in the room when the school is going on. Fuck you.
Yeah, that's been the great reveal of the last year. Parents discovering
what their
through
kids are
remote-
being,
what they're
their
really
kids
being
are being
taught.
taught. Yeah.
Right. There's been good shit that's come out of this COOF thing, man.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. I agree, Object. Big time.
Yeah, I actually shared an article that was kind of old about how CRT is going to court. I don't know if we're starting to win, right? Like us people that are against it. I do know it's getting a lot more attention, and you're getting a lot of allies that are like strange bedfellows.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But probably not enough, because it's being framed at this left versus right issue, and I've said a billion times, like,
no.
Look, if you're a liberal and you like ideas, like you just want socialized medicine, better welfare programs for the poor, like housing for the homeless, things like that. Like, if you think all that shit can happen, like that doesn't, like, you can still be against critical race theory and not be like right leaning by any sense of the word.
Right.
It's one of the things, like, I remember actually before I stopped following SoFame, I had Jeff Holiday in my Twitter feed, and he was talking about Sargon of Akkad, and I was like, dude, Sargon of Akkad would be like the perfect 1996 Democrat, right? Like, he's so left leaning when it comes to issues on anything economically. The only thing he's opposing is, like, they were calling it cultural Marxism back in the day, but the only thing he's opposing is critical theory. Like, that's not a good way to approach the world. I don't know how to fix that. I really don't. Like, Object, do you have any idea how to fix this argument to make it, like, on this one issue, it's not left versus right? Like, we can go back to fighting about tax policy and healthcare. We can go back to fighting about that after we realize that critical theory is not a good way to approach the world or the world's problems.
I haven't tried this in the States because I haven't been back in the States for nearly 18 months now. But I think what you need to explain to liberals is stop letting the communists set the Overton window. Stop letting them decide the goalposts. What they say. Well, they've seduced you. You've brought into this ideology. It is fundamentally wrong. It is destroying the country, and you have to go back to how things were before. You have to stop listening to these people. Anyone who says anything, if you hear the words systemic racism, if you hear the words, if you hear equity mentioned anywhere, then you're be careful. They're going to try and manipulate you.
It's a deal breaker.
It's going to take a lot of work to get a lot of people deprogrammed, but it has to start somewhere.
It can start with CNN.
Yeah. People who watch CNN are victims, I reckon.
Some of it goes back to the very smart people problem. Right, it's the very smart people. There's the people on the right that are just are on the left that are just trying to say, well, yeah, I mean, we kind of agree that this critical theory stuff is not quite on the ball, but we're not going to disassociate ourselves from it completely, and we're just going to say that all these right wingers that are opposing it are just way worse. So we're going to accept it. We're going to tolerate it and pretend it's not going to take over our entire ideology.
But it's okay, so you have a problem though. You can try to explain that to these people and they aren't going to care because they aren't thinking, they're feeling. And when you're only feeling, you don't think things through, you don't see the consequences of your actions.
What I'm saying, a handful of them do, and I'm like thinking of like personalities like Christina Hoff Sommers, Claire Lehman, Jesse Signal.
Well, I think even TERFs will, side on, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to the trans thing, the TERFs are pretty, sound like right-wingers.
They're like, well, like most of the party hates me because I agree with them on 99% of all issues, but on this 1% of things, it's a no-go for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to vote for the party anyway.
Well, in the UK, we just had an election, and there are so many TERFs have been driven out of the Labour Party, and what a surprise! They're losing all over the place now. It's fallen. You can only go so far with this, especially on the trans ideology, and calling people who've been lifelong Labour supporters and feminists all their life. They thought they were doing everything right all the way through, and now they've realised the last 5 or 6 years they've been called horrible names and driven out of all the social groups they were in that were part of the movement. And all of a sudden, people aren't. Even in London, they stopped voting a little bit. Sadiq Khan lost some of his support in this election. So you have to create this disparate alliance, but it won't hold together for everything, but it'll hold together on this one objective. It can be done, I reckon.
Well, see, I think that's a flaw that we have in a lot of, especially here, and it seems because it's a party-based system in Britain. I think, and it's turning into a party-based system over here, and that's not what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be an issues-based system. It was never supposed to be two parties. The founding fathers didn't want parties here. It wasn't supposed to be a thing.
Unfortunately, the reality is we do have the parties.
We're tribal by nature.
Yeah.
We have to convince people, and this is why, like, when I'm talking to somebody that has a left-leaning ideology, and I was like, look, we can fight about that later. Like, we just have to get them to agree that this is toxic and not the way forward.
Right. I totally agree.
And I actually don't think that the spokespersons for this have been super great at doing that. I mean, like, talk about like James, right, who we're listening to, Peter Boghossian, Helen Pluckrose, right? I think they're pretty good at it, but the only other people to pick up on this have been definitely right-wing personalities, right? You got Jack Posobiec, you've got Chris Rufo.
Well, that's because most of the actual brains are on the right.
You just haven't. Well, I think
have you seen what he's doing on Revolver? Do you read Revolver?
No, I don't get to sit down much right now.
Revolver.news is Darren Beatty's website, where he posts. He does all the news, but he's been hammering on the election, of course, like a lot of people on the right are doing. But he's also hammering on the fact that critical race theory is getting into bloody everything, including the military. And at this time, it's gone so bad in the military that it looks like they're going to have political commissars. He's done a whole article on it.
So funny enough, like on the note that you're saying, object is all of a sudden Piers Morgan and Ben Shapiro are being friendly with each other, and it's mostly around this. They didn't call it out explicitly, but it's mostly around this new age way of thinking, which is critical theory.
CRT.
Right. Piers Morgan's like, that's bullshit. Like, I don't agree with that, even though he is, like I said,
he's a gun-grabbing liberal, man.
He's gun-grabbing liberal, but he's still just like,
right.
I might be a go. Like, Noam Chomsky's another example.
What a fucking asshole! I hate Noam. Don't even.
Well, no, I don't like him either. But
don't say his name.
Hold on. Here's the issue. He is a traditional Marxist, right?
Fuck him.
So he's a materialist, and so he actually rejects the critical theorist way of looking at things because he disagrees with the postmodernist and the Frankfurt School approach. So even actual like Marxists, and that's why things get a little bit muddy, and we've talked about this billions of times on our stream, right? How this is a Marxist ideology, but some people that consider themselves Marxists are going to be like, no, it's not.
I said Noam Chomsky is Voldemort. Say not his name anymore from this point on.
Okay, fine. But my question is, why do we keep trying to parse communism and socialism and all these different forms of collectivism that are all equally cancerous?
Right.
They're all the fucking same.
I don't actually parse communism and socialism.
But you know what I'm saying?
People do.
Trotskyist, Stalinist,
Well, no. What?
They're
Like,
all
I think there's
fucking communists.
there's a big difference between the bad economic theory that Noam Chomsky has versus not economic whatsoever, a very esoteric idea that critical race theory or critical theory in general tries
No,
to
they're both equally stupid.
I don't think they're equally stupid.
They
I
are
actually
both
think-
equally stupid because they both ignore
think-
human nature at their core.
I think the critical theorists are worse.
No. They're both equally stupid. If you start ignoring the obvious basics of human nature, just some of the most obvious shit. You take people's stuff away and they are not happy. What happens to a baby when you take stuff from them? Okay? This is basic stuff. They are things. Nature is this way. You take something from a fucking crow. What does it do? Okay? So you want to tell me that commies are no less stupid and no less dangerous than CRT when, well, they're really the same thing, but both of them are ignoring obvious things like boys have penises and girls have vaginas. And even other mammals and reptiles and avians have a sense of fucking property. We call it territorialism in the natural sciences or behavioral sciences. But what the fuck? They're all stupid, Excel. There's neither is more stupid than the other.
Yeah, but CRT commits an extra crime, and which is especially bad, where it reintroduces racism and makes racism acceptable on one side.
Yes, that is stupid and it is impermissible.
Impermissible.
I agree with it.
But that's where the Marxists never wanted that. The Marxists worked against that until the postmodernists showed up.
Well, modern or the Marxists wanted the nationalism because that's how you keep your country together.
Yeah. Well, they wanted internet. Usually that's until they took over, and then they could just do internationalism.
That insight that you just said about race versus the original Marxist versus the current Marxist, you were spot on, Object. Anyway, I rate for the video about medical lysinkoism. I said we weren't going to watch the whole thing. I just wanted to explain. I didn't realize that it only took him 8 minutes to explain the entire thing. Right, so we've all absorbed what that is. Right, Lysenko tried to make communism fit agriculture, and now critical race theorists are trying.
No, he made the assumption that nature was naturally like that. That's what his assumption is, which is fucking retarded.
It's super
right.
dumb.
It's not even. It's not based on science. Is based on observation. You know, I mean, the concrete science comes from observation. And then you come up with the theory based on that observation, and then either it plays out or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What I'm getting at, Irate, is I don't think we need to go through this video anymore.
I feel you.
But the reason that we invited the Object on is because of this use of fear to control behavior in the causes crisis.
Just say Noam Chomsky one more time.
Noam Chomsky.
Noam
Chomsky. Strap on.
Fuck that dude.
Sorry, I had to whip the soundboard out.
Fuck that dude.
Sorry. All right, so all right, so what do you want to do now, Mr. XL? Where shall we go?
Well, I gave the link to the archive article that Object gave me, but really, like, rather than reading the article, like, I mean, you can bring it up, but let's just go over it. So I was talking about how, like, wearing face masks, I think, was just a psychological experiment to make people believe they had some sort of power
Where's the
over
link?
the virus when they really didn't. And he was saying, like,
Oh,
yeah, the
oh,
UK
oh.
already did the study. It's absolutely true. Like, that's what happened.
Oh, let me grab that. Yes, I saw that. And of course, it's an archive. That tells
No,
you everything, man.
The actual article, like, required a subscription or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Right, give me 1 second.
but anyway, Object, you wanna go to the rundown on the study instead of having to read the whole article?
Yeah. This is by the subcommittee that advises the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies in the UK. That's the equivalent of this. It's not the CDC, but it's close to the CDC. But their speciality is the use of psychology by the state. It's called the group is called the Scientific Pandemic Influenza Group on Behavior, and they when the pandemic showed up during the governmental discussions, they realized that the perceived level of personal threat from COVID-19 needed to be increased massively because a substantial number of people would not feel sufficiently personally threatened.
Mm-hmm.
And so they decided to roll out the tools of what you could basically call fear porn. So you're telling people all the time about how many people died today, how many more people are infected. And when the masks became available in sufficient numbers, because remember at the beginning they were telling people not to mask because that would use up the supply that was needed for the medical staff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's actually funny because they didn't see that. It was like, well, if you work in a medical environment, you should wear them. But it turns out that your average person wearing a mask, it's, the way they work, it's not really going to help you. Which, ironically, that's true.
But in Europe, especially, the message that did go out was that the mask was not necessary, and it was when it was harming the supplies in hospitals where it was needed most. The Swiss government said that. The British government said that. And then they realized that they managed to convince people to do the lockdowns after tons of prodding. But they are now admitting that was a totalitarian experiment. And
they are right here. They're saying it's an experiment, and they recognize that it was completely unethical.
Yeah. Completely unethical. It should never have gone ahead.
So literally, my thing, without having any knowledge about this going on in the UK, right? My prediction of what was actually happening with masks after I learned about the entire thing and saw the actual data with mask usage, you're saying I was absolutely correct. That this was a more psychological mandate to make people feel better about the situation they were living in. Versus something that did
it was about control
the virus.
It was about controlling them,
making
them stay inside and wearing masks and shit. Right, exactly. It's about controlling people.
Because the science was showing back in the very fucking beginning that this was airborne and there was fuck all we could do about it. And if it's a cold virus, that means that it's fucking airborne anyway, because most of those are. And that's what COVID is, the cold family.
The one thing we could do was protect those who were vulnerable by telling them to stay the fuck home, stop going out all the bloody time, and we'll look after you. But no one wanted to do that. Was called discrimination, and they didn't want to discriminate. Yeah. So we all had to fucking suffer.
Yeah.
Well, Object, we talked about. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Object, we talked about this before. There was the Barrington Declaration that came out of Oxford, right? Your country.
The Barrington Declaration? What's that?
Yeah, it was Sanjay Gupta in the Barrington Declaration that was coming out and saying that, like, these lockdown provisions are going to have irreparable harm to health.
Oh, yeah.
Because they actually had economists on there. And they were saying that we need to actually target the vulnerable population and not do these lockdown measures.
Oh,
right?
no, you know what they did in Portland?
This was not some right-wing... Well, the biggest thing about this is what I'm saying to them is this came out of Oxford University, which I think, once again, Sanjay Gupta, I think, was the leading medical expert on this. But they came out and like they said this back in April of 2020, saying we got to stop this nonsense, and nobody wanted to listen. And I think that's odd because they were right on all accounts.
Because the Prime Minister got it. Boris Johnson got COVID in April, and he was out of action for 6 weeks, and it's never been the same since.
Well, he's a scared man now.
Yeah.
He didn't come out of it like Trump. Trump came out going, "Yeah, fuck it."
Yeah.
And he was less. Yeah.
By the time Trump got it, we actually had better treatments,
Much
which have
better
still
treatments.
not been disseminated to every hospital and doctor in the world, which is kind of crazy.
Been disseminated
because a lot of that has been political, right?
Yeah.
The
It's like
idea
the
that
HCQ.
we actually have good we have good treatments for how to deal with this.
It's a really strong cold. It literally does the same thing, but in extremes that a cold does to your body.
Well, and one of the most telling things about this entire thing was the study came out and they were talking about like Democrats, even Republicans got it wrong, but they're like, what percentage of people that get coronavirus have to go to the hospital? And Democrats thought it was like, well, no, Democrats thought it was like 50%, right? They thought it was some enormous number.
They did.
When I tell people that, like, so you were talking about like the fear porn, right? The psychology. You turn on the news every day, you just see this COVID death counter. Like, this many fucking people died of COVID. And then you look at the fact that like people die, like 3+ million people die in the United States every year.
Mm-hmm.
We were 16% over this year, like of what you would expect, which is a lot. Like, I'm not saying it's not a thing, but do we really ruin the lives of small business owners
But
and
how
everybody
much
else?
how much of that 16% was actually COOF, and how much of it was lockdown side effects?
Yeah, it was like 8. It was like half.
Yeah.
I actually remember I did the analysis on the Insomnia stream.
Yes, you did.
I think you were there. I just put up the numbers, right? Like, here's the graphs. People ask questions. I changed data around and I showed people that, oh, this is what's going on.
There's been more suicides than anything else in the last year. They haven't talked about the drastic rise in suicide.
By the way, Object, I think I need to do the same thing again.
It may be
Like,
time.
I think I need to pull in the data from the spike during the winter, which is, once again, I showed even during that stream that every winter into like January and February, you have a giant spike in deaths.
Of course, because you got all the people dying of flu normally. All the old people dying of flu.
Or whatever. Right?
Actually, we had less young people die from the flu this year than we have ever.
Well, they say the flu was almost non-existent. And nobody actually has an explanation for that, right? Like, some people say, "Oh, well, see, we know masks are working because the flu wasn't a thing."
No,
but
the flu is never. The masks have never worked on flu.
Or people are washing their hands or whatever. There's so many.
Yeah, like, I think the diagnosis for the flu versus COVID probably overlaps.
They probably stopped testing for the flu.
Well, if you wanted to really look at this, you should go to Japan and Taiwan, because those countries had SARS, right? In 2010, and they've been wearing bloody masks ever since, and social distancing. It's really ruined their societies. And it'd be interesting to see if there's been a drastic drop in flu from their still clinging on to these hygiene measures.
Well, I don't think it's actually going to help, though, because we're talking about viruses that are airborne. And there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do with an airborne virus except achieve herd immunity through infection or vaccination.
Yeah.
There really isn't. That's just the fact of the matter. It sucks because you got things like Ebola in that same class. But,
Oh, can I add another element of fear porn that was used in the UK? It was used a bit in your country, but not as much, because in the UK we have the cult of the NHS, the National Health System, which is the only bit of socialism, of true socialism that's in the country that's been functioning since 1948. That no government dares take away because everyone is used to it and likes it, despite all its failings, like not being able to keep up, not being able to deal with a pandemic without everybody being locked at home. So everyone was told, save the NHS, stay at home. Can you imagine? The medical system that's meant to help and that's meant to save you has to be protected. You have to make you as an individual has to help everybody else, has to make the sacrifice of staying at home and basically ruining your life to save this socialized health system. I can tell you, a lot of people are pissed off with that.
I bet.
Oh, Mr. Dax makes a great point. Lysenko didn't make any assumptions. He had dissenting scientists and experts killed or imprisoned. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like he was a dumbass. It was anybody that challenged his ideas.
Well, yeah, assumptions is maybe the wrong word. It's more like solidly held beliefs, and if you opposed him, he would kill you.
Exactly. I thought that was a good point.
Yeah, I mean, we're still seeing the same thing with the way CRT is trying to invade medicine, which is why we kind of started from one place and got to another to make this a coherent topic stream.
So, I'm not familiar with Lysenko. When did he start getting in? When did he?
Lysenko was he was part of Stalin's crew. He was the guy in charge of agriculture for Russia at the time.
Oh yeah, and he decided that agriculture worked just like the communist
The Holodomor was his gift to the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I know all about that. Yep. Yeah, I was just wondering because if he was one of these people who got scientists sent off to the psych wards, because in the latter half of the Soviet Union, that's what they did with dissenters instead of.
That's what China does too.
Yeah.
Put you in the nut hut, dope you up.
Yeah, look forward to that in the States. That's coming to you if nothing's done.
Yep. Chemical lobotomy.
Mm-hmm.
I already have it with smartphones, don't we?
That's electronic lobotomy. But yeah, you're not wrong.
If you see people walk into walls and cars and doors and poles
well,
tell me that's
and the fear that your phone will die, lose power.
Yeah.
At some point in the day. That's an interesting addiction there.
Yeah, we aren't allowed to talk about any of that, are we? I'm sorry, guys. I get up very early, and I've been out wrangling children because we went and bought boots today, so I'm a bit tired now.
We already talked about enough stuff to get us banned from YouTube, but fortunately, Susan always goes after I rate for more superficial nonsense.
Yeah.
Did she send you a check, I8, in the end or not?
And we keep emphasizing that we're not recommending anybody do anything outside of the CDC, NIH, or WHO's recommendations at this point in time.
Yep,
we're not emphasizing that. We're just making it clear that sometimes we dissent.
We're making theoretical observations.
Yeah, everything that we're saying, we refer you back to the CDC's official website. So
exactly.
And screw you, Susan. I should be able to have a dissenting opinion.
Yeah, no shit.
Oh god, that's like a whole nother conversation. I could do an entire stream on how social media companies are trying to convince people, and they've done a pretty good job of thinking that they can be the arbiters of what is misinformation and what isn't.
Well, they just started with the assumption that everybody was going to believe them, and they've kept the assumption going long enough that the people that don't pay attention have been believing them, but people are starting to wake up.
like I think earlier, like before stream, we were talking about fact checking. Every fact checking organization right now is just a propaganda machine for whatever ideology they want to propose, right?
Yeah, that's always been the case.
There's never been this like neutral fact checking organization that is just like trying to analyze, did this actually happen or not?
Mm-hmm.
And even the ones that do a better job of determining whether something is fact or fiction, the way they lie to you is selective fact checking.
Right. Or yeah, exactly. Like you said, it was 3.8%, but it was really 3.1%.
Well,
or 3.6%.
No, that's the blatant.
You didn't get exactly right.
That's the blatant one where they did it to Trump all the time. Because I used to like the Washington Post would be like, they would actually put the link in there if you clicked it, and it would be something bullshit like that. Exactly what you said, where he said like 4 million something people did X, Y, and Z, and they said false. It was 3.8 million people, not 4.
They're still doing it, man.
Like it was actually false. But like the selective would be like, all right, so if Trump says something, we're going to fact check it. But Joe Biden says something, we're just not going to be on our website. We're not going to evaluate the statement. Might have been completely false, but we don't care.
Well, there's no sense in doing it. I mean, it's like we're on the correct path, so there's no need to question it.
Yeah, I mean they occasionally will pick something very benign to call out their ideological allies, right? Like Biden, they'll pick something benign and be like, "Yeah, Biden totally lied about something nobody cares about."
Well, yeah, and there's this New York Times article supposedly that it goes inside the White House, and there's some not so flattering shit that has come out, like that the president has a tendency to yell at underlings and scream curse words at them. So,
no, I heard about that.
More be hey, look, man.
Apparently,
there's no Trump to piss on, so the vampires have got to suck something. And and I said this when they got elected. I said they're going to start going after each other, and boom, sure enough. So we'll just see.
Yeah,
got to sit back and watch.
I read that information in a different way, actually. When I saw that article doing the rounds, my first thought was, they're trying to prove that he's compos mentis.
Yeah, and then there's that. Yes.
But he just sounds like he's a male version of Hillary Clinton at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced this man is.
I don't think he's as
look. If they pull the 25th, right? All right. The best thing this is the best thing that could happen to us, actually, in my opinion. If they call the 25th within the next year and a couple of months.
I'm very worried about what comes about Kamala coming in.
Yeah, but it's only going to be for one shot. She's only going to get one shot. I guarantee you. And then I don't know who'll be after that, but
I think the Democrat encroachment on the election cycle, and I also think the court packing thing is going to happen.
They're going to try.
I'm pretty sure they're going for a one-party state. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just like my feeling.
It's heading that way.
No, that's what they want. That's what they want, right? That's exactly what they want.
They've been trying for it for a minute.
Yeah. And with rhinos, that's really what you got.
Well,
that's why there's so much.
They're going to side with it. Is what I think, because like one of the things that came out recently was a bunch of the rhinos were like, we're going to form our own political party. Well, they were already a cancer to like what we want for the political
party.
They
were the Lincoln, what were they called? The Lincoln Project?
The Lincoln Project.
Yeah, that That was all fucking rhinos. That was Romney and Liz Cheney and that whole
Not
bunch.
even rhinos. We can't even say they're rhinos. They were fucking wolves in sheep's clothing. They were
Here,
fucking
here.
lying outright.
Right.
Because, no, this shit, I really do think there is a political purge coming for the Republican Party, and I think the populists are going to eat their fucking lunch.
I agree. I totally agree.
I think so too.
That's the best thing that can happen.
Like,
In my opinion.
when people are talking about the Libertarian Party and whatnot, it was like, don't run as Libertarian. Like, if you have a legitimate candidate, just slip into the Republican primaries because they still have rules that allow you to do it.
Populism.
Well,
Like,
that's
just
what-
take over the party, and there's enough populists in control of the party that they're not going to change it.
Well, by nature, America is supposed to be populist.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. You know, we're built to be a populist nation.
A nationalistic populist nation.
That's right.
It may make y'all uncomfortable, but too bad. We live in a nationalistic populist nation. The first almost 200 years in existence of our country, we didn't allow other people in.
Right. We wanted to get it right, man. We wanted to get it right.
So,
I don't know. Like, all I can really say with all this is we live in interesting times.
Well,
We certainly do, which I think is why we do this stream, because we're talking about the interesting times we live in.
Indeed.
Did you guys?
Because there's this ideology that is attacking us that we are talking about every Saturday here on the Rate Project channel, and we're seeing how it evolves. And like, I actually don't know where it stands right now. Like, I don't know who's winning because I get on, like, I listen to talk radio when I'm just driving around in my car, which isn't very often anymore, thanks to COVID. But I actually hear, like, all your right-wing personalities, like Glenn Beck, fucking Joe, whatever. Anyway,
Levin.
he's on, he's on, like, my 710 channel talking about critical race theory and calling it out by name.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know what the future holds. I really don't.
well, no, Glenn Beck did a massive piece on it. It lasted like a week, where he did a segment of his show each week discussing aspects of critical race theory.
You imagine
and what
what-
to say to your kids and shit.
Glenn Beck is not only friends with James Lindsay, but there's Eric Weinstein, right? Brett Weinstein's brother. Like,
The
there's
smarter
this kid-
one.
He posted videos of him just hanging out with Glenn Beck while Glenn Beck was playing drums and he was playing guitar.
Oh, wow.
Just jamming.
That's right.
So, like, you have these people that are just like, we have this common goal in mind. Like, we disagree on certain things, but this
It's
ideology that's trying to take over America, we both disagree with it. So, let's beat that one down, and we'll talk later about our other disagreements.
Right.
Have you got? Wait a minute.
And in the
have you guys-
meantime, they're just gonna jam.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the Flag Officers for America letter? That you retired U.S. generals and admirals.
Oh shit,
Public-
dude! There's
public
over
this week?
100 of them.
Yeah, I heard
Over
about it.
100
I heard
of them
about it
going, what the
today.
fuck are you
100
doing?
Over 150 now. It's gone up.
Oh shit!
Well, all right, so tell me what's I'm not on the same page. What's up?
Okay, so basically they're pointing out that the country is falling apart. Things are going bad. Critical race theory is ruining everything.
Mhm.
The border is not being guarded, and you're under invasion. And things need to be done. It's made the round on our side of the media, but not so much on the other side, apart from bizarre statement from generals and stuff like that. And the fact checkers haven't really gone into it at all. I think they're under orders not to touch this, not to let it spread. So let me dump that into the chat, everyone. Irate actually linked that. I dumped it in your chat on Thursday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
In your
missed it.
Discord. That's okay. There's a lot of news at the moment. It's difficult to keep up.
Well, yeah, it is. It's like, I don't know if y'all are having a hard time, but there's another side to this thing. So the generals are coming out and saying that the nation is falling apart and that the chief executive is allowing our country to come under attack on several fronts. And then, have you guys seen the comparison of the most recent Russian military recruitment ad and the most recent American military recruitment ad?
I'd love to see that.
I'd love to see that, yep.
Okay. I will drop a link for Bill Whittle. He has them both there, but the Russian one is badass. Like, I want to go be a soldier after watching it. The one for America, I'm kid you not, is a cartoon.
Oh no.
That's well, and we're all open-minded. Look, if you're a young man and you need period pads when you're in the foxhole, we're going to get that to you. You know, you'll have a razor to shave your face and period pads. So you can, you know, soak up your period. Because that's totally normal.
That's unfair.
Well, you know, like it's totally normal to put a woman in a jumpsuit, right? A pregnant woman in a flight suit, that's normal.
Yeah, no shit. 9 G's on a baby. I wonder what that looks like. You know.
Whoa. Timma.
What
you just said about pregnant women, that was sexist. We're talking about birthing persons.
Well, okay, birthing persons in flight suits is still stupid. I don't care what you fucking call it. You just took a baby that's undersized without full-size bones and fully developed bones, and now you're gonna slap it around and squish it and smash it. It's gonna die.
Whoa. Right there. It's not a baby until it's actually been born.
It's a clump of cells.
While it's in there, it's a clump of cells.
It's a clump of cells.
Holy
I
smokes.
think that's why I like my woke satire account. That's so many followers. I'm going to change my profile picture and change everything. Mask are off. So I'm going to take the mask off, but it was kind of fun because a lot of people were just like, I don't know if this is satire or serious.
Maybe we can get old Sofane on here one night. You know,
sure. Invite him on. Invite him on. Like, have him talk to me. I don't hate Sofane. I just think he's wrong.
I think he's boring and he talks too much.
He did he was at MythCon.
Mythicist,
right?
The Mythicist,
yeah. Mythicist Milwaukee with MythCon.
Yeah, he was there not just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and he was on stage actually with Jack Basabiak, and I was like, you spend way too much time on the internet, bro. He was talking about how you have this funnel of people that are anti-SJW that go straight to Nazi, and I'm like, that's not real. It's like, that's you spending way too much time on the internet, and that's all there is to it.
Yep, it's hyperbolic argument without any kind of real concrete evidence. So
I don't know. I actually think Sofane doesn't like the whole critical theory bullshit thing, or at least parts of it. I think it's one of those things, it's very tribalistic, right? It's where you have people like that all of a sudden are just like, you know what? I am going to be more open to this crazy idea that gender is this infinite spectrum because these people that I don't like are against it.
Well, that's
kind of goes back to, it goes back to my problem though. It's the way people think, right? I've said a billion times in the stream, this is not conservative versus, liberal in the way we see it in America, right?
Right.
This is actually real liberalism, the philosophy of the Enlightenment versus anti-liberal philosophies like Marxism, which call themselves out explicitly as anti-liberal, which is also why I've said a million times, we need to take back the word liberal. Whenever Sargon was trying to do it and failed, maybe I didn't understand it, but I don't think he had all the facts. when you read Critical Theory 101, like literally the textbook that they give to kids when they take their first critical race theory class, and they say it's a challenge to the liberal order, right? That's whenever you have to just think for a second and be like, nope, we got to take back the word liberal. We can't call these anti-liberal ideas liberal anymore. You have to stop it.
I know if I mentioned Sophane's name, it would trigger some people out there. Chat, I love you. You're awesome. You are the reason I do this thing. It's so fun sometimes to fuck with y'all.
You are the reason.
Yes.
Oh,
Sorry, I write.
You are the wind beneath my wings. I'm just saying.
All right. Do you want to? Do we want to wrap this up?
You want to say Noam Chomsky?
Fuck that dude. Nope, you banned the word, so I'm not.
No, Chomsky.
Wearing a strap on.
Put that dick down.
Do you guys even know the reference? Do you guys even know the reference I'm making?
No.
That thing a pussy.
No.
And put
Yeah,
that thing down.
there's a Bo Burnham skit from like 15 years ago where he sang a song and was like, and Noam Chomsky wearing a strap on. And it was just it came out of nowhere and it was hilarious.
My 14-year-old just discovered Bo Bergman. It's been a fun revisit.
I thought like
Hey,
I've
Carl.
only seen like his I don't know if he's even doing anything anymore, right? But Bo Burnham's first few stand-ups I thought were absolutely fucking hilarious.
Fuck.
Mm.
Dude, I didn't realize how tall he was. He's like 6'6" or some shit. The dude is like a fucking beast.
Oh, so he'd be the same height as me.
He's stupid tall. You should see him try to get up to a piano to sit down to play. It's just fucking adorable.
Anyway, anybody wants to hear some old school comedy before comedy was corrupted by woke bullshit? Look at Bo Burnham.
Yeah. My 14-year-old just discovered him, and it's good times. We're having a lot of laughs going through with that.
I bet.
Going through that with her. So, anyway, I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah,
we made it. We made it to the 2-hour mark. Which is where I was trying to get
technically, yeah, we did.
We invited MC on 20 minutes before the stream was supposed to end, and of course it went like 35 minutes over because it was MC.
Well, he has so much information.
Yeah,
I know.
dude, he's loaded.
You were like, dude, can we wrap? Like you said, our
Yeah, well, I can't remember what it was.
You were
well, it doesn't really matter because I was like, yeah, I was just trying to like fill in another 20 minutes. Oh, yeah, you were eating those edibles. You were eating those edibles last. Yeah, that's what was going on.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I was hurting and I was ready to run, dude. I'm like, okay,
those were legal edibles too. On top of it. So.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Brian came back. Mr. Dax, James Scully, Mason Mulpus, that made fun of me earlier for saying Neosporin.
It's Neosporin.
Yeah, I know. My mom said it that way when I was younger, so that's what I remember.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yes, get mad about it.
Yeah, get mad.
Carl, Becca, Object, you're in here. Like, thanks for coming on. I actually really wanted to hear what you had to say about that.
Yeah, thanks, Object.
Confirming exactly what I predicted was really true. Like, they've already talked about this.
Yeah, I was surprised. They published this article is just of today. I'm surprised how appreciative you are on that.
Yeah, if you really want to be upset, go ahead and read the stuff from the CIA in the 70s.
Yeah.
The stuff from the CIA in the 70s about psychology?
About the psychological use of fear. They've been doing this in America since the 70s.
Yes.
60s and 70s. It was part of the gaslighting of America to keep them anti-Russian for the Cold War.
Yeah. Well, it worked on me.
Me too.
Fucking hate them.
Maybe a little
hate
bit
commies.
too much.
I don't hate Russians.
Too well.
I don't hate the Russian people, but I do hate the Communist Party. with every fiber of my being. So
I think their 1960s or Cold War programming was a little too strong, and now they're fucked. So.
Well, and that may be the thing that saves this country's ass. So, you know, I'm seeing the coup thing as a positive in a way, because all this lockdown shit exposed the CRT stuff to the normal, everyday fucking people. It's like they're teaching this to my kid.
I see less than a minute left. Like, you want to chill out? What's going on for your channel?
Oh shit! All right,
tomorrow, Saturday.
Tomorrow, the one and only Colleen Bernier. That's right, Chief Florida correspondent for the Lords of the Night, and just all around awesome chick, and main squeeze to our buddy Roasted Opinions. Will be in the chair for ice cream tomorrow. And then Monday, Becca and I, we're going to be going over some more, the Elder James Polyakov, that whole spy ring thing that Ames sold out to the Russians for money because his wife was a bitch. You know, and if you watch last week's, if you want to kind of get that perspective, but this is going to focus more on the actual assets that he gave up. There it is. And on that note, I don't know. What about y'all? You got anything to shill? Or
if I may,
please do. Object of Hate.
Insomnist is on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. As you know, it's now at 7 p.m. Pacific, so that's not. 9 Central, 10
Central,
and 10
that's right.
Eastern.
That's right.
Yeah. And Informative Massacre Porn is on Thursdays, usually at 7 p.m. Central.
That's become my favorite Thursday occupation.
Has it?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
I like throwing it on, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to be able to listen to it now that you guys have changed the days. I'm sorry I haven't been able to this week. But
Indeed.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, Bubonic, for you guys need to go check out Boo's, what's it called? Educational Massacre Porn. Am I saying it wrong?
Informative
Massacre Porn.
That's right.
I love the show, and I always forget the name, and I shouldn't because it's a fantastic name, and
it is a good name.
It bugs me. But you got Boo. Don't forget about Hard Bastard. That's another great one, y'all. So, yeah, if you want a place to get news, Hard Bastard is great. He's got some really edgy jokes, and he plays them really deadpan really well. So
Indeed, he does. He's funny as shit.
And original Ashuela has just dumped another video on Odyssey if you want to catch that. She does interesting content too. She likes all our shows, so we have to help her out a little bit.
That's
too.
right.
Oh, did I miss saying Becca, didn't I?
Yeah, Becca Fairley. We like Becca Fairley's channel. She does her thing. Fairley, just Becca. Right. Well, she's my partner on the Monday show, so there's that, and of course she's on the Cream Stream Fridays.
If you like these stream and you're not tuning into Becca and I read on Monday, they kind of go hand in hand. Like, we're talking about the theory, she's talking about the reality.
Shit kind of links up, right? And all this stuff kind of really, man, if you follow my whole stuff except for the interview show, it kind of like links together in a intellectual, in a cognitive kind of way, right? And that's kind of the and that's me. That's why I do 4 different shows on one channel, because it's like I'm, there's more than one way to skin a cat, I guess. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna shut up. How about y'all? You ready to go?
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm ready.
All right.
Peace all.
Say goodbye, y'all.
See you next time.
Bye.
Uh-huh.